Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the hidden, almost secret philosophical world behind something that, on the surface, looks incredibly simple: landscape art. Seriously, if you've ever found yourself just kind of staring at a painting of a rolling hillside or a dense forest or a vast ocean and wondered why it holds such a powerful grip on your imagination, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to look right past the paint and the canvas and jump straight into the existential core of what it actually means to capture the natural world. So think about it. What exactly is a landscape in art? Beyond the technical hurdles of drawing a human figure, whether it's someone famous or a complete stranger, why are so many of us, artists and art lovers alike, undeniably drawn to creating and admiring nature scenes? Why choose a serene, quiet forest over a dramatic human portrait? The reasons are actually pretty diverse. For some, they're just deep, hardcore lovers of nature. For others, the landscape offers this profound sense of relaxation that you simply don't get when you're wrestling with the strict, exact anatomy of the human body. And honestly, whether you're scrolling through digital art on your phone or standing in a museum looking at a masterpiece, that profound, almost magnetic pull toward the landscape is always there.
The core truth here is that landscape art represents a deeply ancestral link between man and nature. A landscape is never just a pretty picture to hang above the couch. It holds this vast, sweeping conceptual depth. Choosing to depict a landscape is an extremely important, deeply rooted approach in the visual domain. It anchors humanity to the visual world in a way that goes way, way beyond simple decoration.
And we can literally trace this link all the way back. Starting way back in prehistory, early humans expressed this connection through various abstract signs. As we move forward into antiquity, those signs evolve into more figurative, synthesized elements. Think of the incredibly intricate nature scenes placed on ancient buildings, mosaics, or Greek vases. Fast forward to the Middle Ages, and this link just flourishes into incredibly complex scenes woven into tapestries, glowing in stained glass windows, and painted right into sacred icons. Finally, moving from the Renaissance all the way to modernity, the landscape becomes a complex, synthesized reality on the canvas. It is a continuous, unbroken chain of visual history.
Now, if we zoom out and categorize these works, you'll generally see them fall into two broad buckets. On one side, you have these pristine scenes where absolutely no human elements appear at all. Untouched nature. On the other side, you have landscapes where human elements, or even fully urban environments, take center stage. And within that second bucket, you might have a scene where nature still vastly predominates, or you might have a fully urban landscape where the things made by mankind are the primary focus.
Which brings us to part one, the anatomy of the gaze.
So, biologically speaking, our human vision is highly focused, right? When we look at something, our eyes concentrate intensely on a specific object or a tiny zone within our visual field. But an artist painting a landscape, they have to use what's called a general frame gaze. It's basically like switching your brain to a wide-angle lens. The artist's mind opens entirely to the exterior, letting itself be penetrated by the environment, actively opposing our natural biological limitation to just focus on one single thing. Now, this doesn't mean there isn't a center of interest or a spot with more light or contrast in the painting, but the artistic choice of what to capture is fundamentally much more expansive than our everyday vision.
By forcing their mind wide open like that, the artist is essentially attempting to simulate a divine spatial omnipresence. It's almost like they're trying to look at the scene with way more eyes than just the two biology gave them. In fact, if you study historical landscape works, you'll often notice artists deliberately using multiple vanishing points or even multiple perspectives just to achieve this godlike, all-encompassing view of the natural world. It's a truly fascinating psychological phenomenon when you think about it.
And that leads us right into part two, the existential core.
Because think about how you feel standing face to face with nature. You feel small, totally insignificant. But weirdly, at the exact same time, you feel huge. Why? Because you are in the posture of the sole witness to all this massive grandeur. This internal duality is literally at the heart of every landscape. Artists deliberately play with this exposed psychological state. Have you ever noticed a tiny human element in a giant landscape painting? A small fence, a tiny part of a house, or a minuscule little figure? Those aren't just random details. They are inserted deliberately to offer a sensation of proportion. They force a comparative scale between the great, terrifying vastness of the world and our own human smallness.
Because of that crazy duality, every single landscape inherently carries a double state. Regardless of the bright colors or the dark, moody grays an artist might use, there is first a state of coldness, the sheer, indifferent, completely non-human reality of nature.
But simultaneously, there's this undeniable warmth, a really powerful calling toward that vastness, felt by the singular human witness. Because of this, landscapes act as extremely personal windows. They sit right there on the visual border of an internal struggle. They are the artistic arena where the essential, existential fight between the interior human soul and the exterior universe takes place.
But here's the wild part. Despite all that profound existential weight we just talked about, historically, landscapes were not considered the absolute pinnacle of artistic creation. For the longest time, they were relegated to being just the context, not the subject, the context. Human egocentrism basically demanded that human beings be the primary focus, so landscapes served merely as the frame, the secondary scene, or just the background. But over time, because landscapes don't speak directly to our human ego, but rather to that massive clash between our importance and our smallness, the human presence was gradually extracted. Artists eventually removed us, so the landscape itself could finally receive its own pedestal, forcing us to just confront the all that is.
So, how does an artist actually build this massive existential clash on a flat canvas? Let's get into part 3, crafting the natural world.
Okay, step 1 is all about elementary horizontality. You have to mark that horizon line. I mean, without it, your world literally has no gravity, right? Once you've got the ground metaphorically beneath your feet, step 2 involves blocking out these large, simplified, synthesized, geometricized forms. Then in step 3, from those blocks, the artist seeks specific materiality. This is where the really tricky perspective problems of near and far come into play, rendering the specific texture of a single leaf, the roughness of diverse rocks, or the shadows that natural elements cast upon one another. Finally, step 4. Within all this plethora of specific planes, the artist stages a compositional direction layer by layer. They direct the scene absolutely, but they always leave room for that state of surprise that the wild, untamed diversity of nature offers.
Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. Nature, in its relationship to man, is such a paradox. It resembles nothing, yet it resembles everything. It constantly seems to hide portraits and recognizable shapes within its forests and its clouds. And yet, unlike painting a human portrait or an animal, rendering nature exactly with total, individualized resemblance is almost impossible to achieve. Nature's sheer, wild diversity completely resists exact imitation. So, if we can never perfectly capture it, what are we truly looking at when we gaze deeply into a landscape? We are looking at our own attempt to be the sole witness to the infinite. I really hope this explainer has completely transformed how you view the next painted forest or mountain range you encounter. Keep looking deeply, and thank you so much for joining me.